It's Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring in Seattle. It is August 24th, 2025, and I'm making a video monologue. I'm going to talk about the music of Pete Droge, who I admire very much. Saw him live last night at Easy Street Records in West Seattle, where he had a record release party for his Fade Away Blue album. So he signed it, Goddess Kring. And then I have a new book. I have three books that I published. I have Kring Flower, Song Lyrics and Dreams, Shannon Kringen. I have Kringonian Pizzazz, Kring Speak Poetry, Goddess Kring, Shannon Kringen. And I have on the back, camera's not focusing. The camera will not focus. That's okay. I've got headshots I took of myself on the back of these two books, which I'm happy about. And I have Art Identity and the Sacred, a book about my art being my spiritual practice and how I figure out who I am and why I'm here and a sense of purpose. So that's my show and tell props. I'm wearing, yesterday I went to Nudestock in Issaquah near Seattle at the Tiger Mountain Family Nudist Park. So I'm still wearing this because it was so fun and I just am keeping it on for my souvenir type feeling. I'm really, really grateful for the art and music collaborations that I've been doing. I am intentionally slowing down how I speak. I am really trying to get my bearings. Yesterday, I had a really epic day. I went to Nudestock and listened to music and danced with other people at the nudist family resort park after being invited to go there for like literally 20 years. I think I went there once in 2004 after I was interviewed for Naturist magazine by Mark Story, who interviewed me about naturism and how it's connected to figure modeling. I have worked as a figure model since 1992, and I wonder how many figure models are naturists. Like how many people find naturism through figure modeling and how many figure models find naturism through figure modeling and naturism are related in terms of when you're a figure model, the whole point is to give the artist something to draw, the human figure. And you need to be comfortable doing that and, not having any clothes on and posing in front of people and holding still and having people observe you and draw you and paint you from the poses that you do. It's about being a natural human being. That's the way I see it. I see it as when I model, I see it partly as acting, partly as you're literally on a platform and you're like on a stage and you're sort of acting. But I also see it as like creating um an inspiring pose, projecting like confidence and being comfortable and relaxed. And comfortable, like physically comfortable and mentally comfortable. So it's sort of like acting when you model because you're on a platform and it's like a 3 hour session, almost like a musical concert would be, 1, 2, 3 hours. Um, but when you're at a naturist or nudist family-friendly resort or camp, you are just nude with other people, but you're just doing everyday things like eating, swimming, dancing, playing music. Some of the bands on stage yesterday were not wearing any clothing, and it was, clothing optional for the bands. And the musicians weren't necessarily naturists or nudists, and they were, um, so that was optional. So some of the musicians were wearing regular clothes, and some were wearing no clothes or whatever. You can wear whatever you want or wear nothing at all. And the point is to relax and accept your body and love yourself the way you are and not worry about being competitive, or it's not a beauty contest. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, if you're fat or thin or muscular or tall or short, or every ethnicity, every gender, every um, you know, every kind of body is loved and accepted and appreciated. And um, like it's a family friendly environment. So there's like adults and kids, and we're all safe together. And there's rules that we all follow to respect each other's boundaries. And it's about relaxing. And so when you go there, it just feels like common sense. But when you talk about it, it sounds kind of unusual and like it might not be relaxing if you think of it compared to mainstream culture where everybody is, not only wearing clothing, but also wearing makeup and wearing, like, I have a tendency, and a lot of the people yesterday that I was around at Nudestock, a lot of people don't wear any makeup. They don't necessarily shave off all their body hair, that, whatever, it doesn't matter, do whatever you want. But there's a general attitude of just relaxing into being sort of a free range human being. That's the way I interpret it. So then it was like I went by myself because I thought I was just kind of too shy to go. And I went by myself yesterday, knowing that I would see the band. They're called the Mod Men. They're a rock and roll cover band, and that I'm friends with. And I'm really close to the guitar player in the band. It's a three-piece band. There's a bass player, guitar player, and a drummer. It's a very, three-piece band. Um, so I knew for sure I was going to know them when I got there. And then as soon as I got there, the people there were so nice and so welcoming and so friendly. And they loved my art car, Opal Moonstone. And they found me a parking spot right away. And I checked in. Um, and then I undressed basically, and I had like it was a really hot sunny day, and I didn't want to slather myself with chemicals, sunscreen chemicals. So I just kind of put like on like I had like a sunscreen dress, I'll say, like a swimsuit cover dress that sort of shielded me from the sun. And then we sat under a tree, and as soon as I got there, I ran into a friend of mine who's a figure model. Um, and he's also a musician. So there was somebody there I knew that was a figure model musician. And then we sat right next to this other guy who said that I looked familiar, but he wasn't sure if he'd ever met me. And then we figured out that he remembered my public access TV show, Goddess Kringen, and he was really curious about me and wanted to know about what it's like being a figure model and different. I brought my art books, my art identity in the sacred, my Kringonian pizzazz, and my cream flower book, and I shared with him my art. And he was really interested, and he let me kind of ramble on about my poetry and my music and my visual art. And it's interesting. He said he was a little starstruck and a little bit awestruck by me, and then I told him the story about being a little kid and being inspired by Shirley Temple, and Mick Jagger in high school, and Shirley Temple when I was a little tiny kid. wanting to sing and dance and act and wanting to express myself in the visual and performing arts and not just one or the other, and wanting to be published, wanting to make visual things and publish them. And then, so I was at the naturist gathering, Nudestock yesterday, and then on the same day, Pete Droge, a musician that I've been following since he opened for Tom Petty in the 90s, and he does kind of folk rock. I guess he calls his music Americana folk rock or something. I don't really know what the genre is, but I found out about him because he opened for Tom Petty in 1995, I think was the year. And I found out after that he actually is from, like he went to Bainbridge Island High School and he's from around the Seattle area and he lives on Vashon Island right now. And I mean, he lived in Portland for a while and then he moved back apparently, but that doesn't matter. But it's just interesting that my love for Tom Petty led me to know about Pete Droge. And then it was just a coincidence that he happened to be around this area, which is nice because you can see him perform more often because he lives in this area. So I've seen him like live. He opened for Tom Petty. I saw him in the 90s. And then I saw him at the Vashon Island Center for Performing Arts, I think it's called, a very beautiful venue there. I saw him there twice, and I saw him once at the Triple Door, and then last night at Easy Street Records. So that's a whole long story, but his music is just so captivating and so beautiful. The nuances, the melodies, the bendy. I know that musicians don't necessarily like to be compared to other people because obviously they do their own unique thing, but there are musical influences, and the sound that he has reminds me, the relaxing comfort flow reminds me of James Taylor, a very great songwriter. Just the sort of ease at which he seems to play, even though he's obviously putting a lot of work into playing his guitar and singing. I mean, he's really doing something beautiful, but he kind of, the vibe that I get when I listen to Pete Droge sing is just that he's so relaxed and there's just such a flow. He's in the flow of doing what he loves and what he's very good at. So it kind of hypnotizes you. That's the feeling I get. And music is really important to me. And I don't think everybody feels this way. There's a lot of people who love music, but you could say that being a neurodivergent person on the autism spectrum, music is one of my special interests. I'm very musically inclined, very into listening to songs that I like over and over, very repetitively. And I get into a dream world and I see shapes. I have synesthesia. So when I hear music, I see shapes and patterns and colors and textures that move and dance in my head. And when I hear music from different parts of the world, if I recognize what culture they're from, I can sort of smell the food in my imagination. I sort of associate different music with different kinds of food. And so that's interesting that my sense of smell and my visual combines with my love for the audio and the music that I'm hearing. So I went to the concert because he had a free concert at the Easy Street Records in West Seattle, celebrating the release. It was basically an album release party for Fade Away Blue. I'll put this down now, but Fade Away Blue, Pete Droge. My tattoo means be yourself, no matter what they say. I designed this. So I'm just saying, I'm doing a monologue with no script. I'm just making this up. I was listening earlier, so I'm very inspired by Pete Droge and I'm musically, and I'm very inspired by the naturist gathering that I went to. I guess they're calling it a nudist park. Um, so naturism and nudism, figure modeling is one thing, and being inspired by the music of Pete Droge and musicians in general. because I've dipped my toe into music. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a musician, but I write a lot of poetry and we're turning it into music. And I think Dave Flowers and I have done like 24 songs, which I'm amazed by. Um, but I want to find more of my natural voice. In the studio, when we record, we overdub and we can do one line at a time and we can record one line at a time and we create as we go, as opposed to jamming and improvising. Some musicians jam and improvise, and there's a flow that happens. And then other musicians will copy and paste, like cut and paste. I don't mean using computers and artificial intelligence to make your songs. I mean, when you're really making your own songs, you're doing it in a one line at a time and arranging it, producing it, mixing it, and arranging it in a way that is almost like making a quilt or a collage, like a patchwork of audio. And usually when Dave and I work in the studio, we start with Dave makes an audio, sorry, everything about music is audio, a rhythm loop, a loop of rhythm or beats, as they say. I don't really like the term beats. It kind of annoys me for some reason, but rhythm, drums, a loop, a rhythm loop that's a certain time signature. And then he throws in sometimes a little melodic thing dancing around. See, in my head, I can see the layers. I see the rhythm track, and then I see the melody track dancing around it in like a swirly pattern. And then we look at my poem, and I read him the whole poem, and then we take it line by line, and we change the order in which I wrote the words to make it fit the song because I don't really write long, short, long, short, long, long. Like there's a pattern of song lyrics, and I don't read a lot of poetry, but I listen to a lot of music. I'm dyslexic. I'm pretty dyslexic, and reading is not easy for me. I like to write more than I like to read, which reminds me of what Billy Bob Thornton said. The actor Billy Bob Thornton, friends of mine actually have given me a hard time about mentioning famous people. And it's like, okay, well, when I mention Billy Bob Thornton, I'm not saying it because he's like a rich and famous guy that I'm like, it's not about the fame and the wealth, it's about communication. So I happened to listen to an interview with Billy Bob Thornton recently, and he talked about, and so what I care about is not that he's rich and famous. What I care about is that he's a human being that writes and acts and directs and does music. And so he was just talking about being dyslexic and not really being very good at auditioning. And he was talking about how he kind of fell into acting because he didn't really know what he was doing. And so he just made something up because he was supposed to do some classic text thing. And instead, he modernized it and did his own like intuitive version of something. And then his acting teacher was like, that's very unique. I've never seen anybody do that. That's very unique. So you could say that what the flaw of somebody is sometimes leads them to what they're good at. So like Temple Grandin, the autistic lady Temple Grandin that has a PhD, look her up, Temple Grandin. Um, she talks about when you're neurodiverse and if you're dyslexic or autistic or you have ADHD or I'm left-handed also, if you're shy and sensitive and introverted or you're a highly sensitive person or whatever it is, or if you're extremely extroverted, if little kids are extremely extroverted, they're really good at different things than an introvert would be good at. So what's important for people is to tap into what they're good at. And so what's interesting is that I'm not really good at reading and I don't read a lot of poetry, and yet I love to write in my journal and I love to write poems and autobiographical stories and just stream of consciousness, writing. automatic writing, whatever you want to call it. And so when I listened to Billy Bob Thornton talk about that, it made me feel hopeful about like my biggest influences are songwriters in terms of my writing of my poetry. I'm influenced by Jim Morrison from The Doors. I'm influenced by Patti Smith, by Tom Petty, by Tori Amos, by the band Cutworms and Beach House. And I discovered another band called Deep Dark Woods recently. And I'm listening to songs. I really carefully listen. I had a talk with Pete Droge about just a brief encounter last night because he talked to each of us. He signed our CDs that we bought or our vinyl that we bought of his new album. And he, took a photo with each of us if we wanted to. That was very generous of him. And I talked about how much I liked. Oh, that's what I was going to say. People don't like to be compared to other people. Um, like if you listen to Tom Petty, you might think, oh, he sounds kind of like the Byrds and the Beatles and Bob Dylan. But I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about what another musician reminds you of. But they're doing their own unique thing. So Pete Droge does his own unique thing with his wife, Elaine Summers. They sing together, and I love what they do. His vocal tones remind me of Roger McGuinn from the Byrds, and there's something about him that reminds me of Tom Petty in terms of the sensitive, emotional, the melodic. I told him I noticed the subtle like there's a way he bends his voice. He gets higher and lower and louder and quieter. He sort of bends. And when you hear guitar that's twangy, a slide guitar, a twangy country bluesy kind of guitar, and it kind of twangs up and down. I don't know what you call that up and down thing. Not all musicians do that, but my favorite music seems to be really delicate folk rock country bluesy that kind of twangs. And I noticed that Pete Droge's vocals and his guitar both mirror each other in terms of being up and down and sort of twangy. I don't know what word to use, bendy, twangy. It makes me see like these bendy, twangy shapes in my head. And it makes me happy when and he said, thank you for noticing. Not everybody notices subtle details when they listen to music. And because some of his fans they're singing along and they like the songs, but I don't know if they're really tuned in to like little tiny details in the songs. Some people, I think, just listen to a song and they just like the overall song. And maybe they don't notice the little tiny details. But I'm always, as a writer, I love to write poems and stories. I love to write. So I listen to the lyrics of songs, and I've been like that my entire life. I remember as a little kid, um, well, third grade is when I remember really starting to listen to records and consciously, like my parents always had music in the house. So I would listen to, the Monkees and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd and the Doors and the Beach Boys and Frank Sinatra, Billy Joel, um, what are the other bands like Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, Blondie, all the different Joni Mitchell, different, you know, musicians. And right now I really like Cutworms and Beach House and Deep Dark Woods and Rafe Perlman and Jason Webley and Jesse Sykes in the Sweet Hereafter, I think is the name of her band. Uh, I love musicians and I love songwriters. And I feel like sometimes I love music way more than I love visual art. I am a visual artist. I take a lot of photos. I do non-representational paintings. I do that. But I'm really, well, when I went to Amsterdam and I saw Van Gogh in person, I did burst into tears. I cried. And I wasn't sure when I cried when I saw Van Gogh and Hundertwasser. I wasn't sure if I was crying when I saw Van Gogh because I could pick up on Van Gogh's energy that he put into painting, or was I picking up on the actual energy of all the people that were observing his paintings and loving them? So I do love visual art very much. Hundertwasser is one of my favorite artists from Austria, but that's a whole nother ball of wax. But I'm just recognizing how important music is to me. So I'm tipping my toe in. I feel like I'm in music school. I feel like I'm learning. I have a guitar. I want to learn to play, but I haven't been doing that lately because I've been focused on writing poetry and recording music and doing art modeling and medical modeling and all my other projects that I'm doing. But always since I was a little kid, I wanted to write and like I started writing in a diary when I was 13 after reading The Diary of Anne Frank. Literally, I got a diary and started writing in it. And I've been writing ever since I was 13. But when I listened to Billy Bob Thornton talk about how dyslexic he is and how he loved to write and he could make up characters and he also has a band. I'm going to see Billy Bob Thornton, and I think they're called the Box Masters is the name of the band, and they're playing on Whidbey Island in Langley, where I went to high school in the 80s. And so that's interesting. And that's a sold out show. And I got myself a ticket. I'm going by myself. I got myself a ticket to that, and I'm excited about it. It's in September of 2025. And I'm inspired by people who communicate. And yesterday at the naturist nudist Nudestock gathering, I was inspired and happy to share about my artwork with the person that was sitting next to me there. And I was happy that I ran into the other person that I knew. So, and then there was, oh yeah, there was two other art car people there. So I went going thinking I only knew the people in the band, the Mod Men band. But then I ended up, but everyone there was so nice, it didn't matter that I didn't know them because everyone is very welcoming and very kind. People are very relaxed and kind. There's something so nice about swimming in a pool and not having to wear a bathing suit and just being able to get in and out of the pool, rinse off, take a shower, rinse, and then go sit on the grass and have a picnic and eat and dance and talk to your friends and then jump back in the pool and then rinse off, and it's like, and you're not wearing a bathing suit. So it's just much more easy and simple and comfortable and relaxing. And then you don't have to like go hide somewhere to get dressed or undressed. People just dress or undress in front of each other. And it's not like an erotic thing. It's just like a basic human family friendly thing. So it's an activity that's just more relaxed. It's just more simple and easy. And it makes you forget about time and one thing was nice also is because I take a lot of pictures to the point where I exhaust myself. I take so many photos. It was nice to be at the event yesterday because you're not supposed to take any pictures because everyone is, not wearing anything and they want to just keep it private. And so um, there's an official photographer for the organization that photographs people with permission for just promoting the actual community within the community. Um, but other than that, people are not photographing. And so it was nice for me to sort of be forced actually to not take photos. And I noticed I talked more to the people that were there, which was good for me. And it kind of gave me a rest from that. And I really enjoyed sharing with the person that was interested in my art, although I felt self-conscious about sort of doing a monologue. And then I wonder, is that my autism that wants to do monologues literally? Like if somebody's really extroverted and they're constantly talking, people say, oh, well, you may as well just get a talk show. And people that do monologues, well, I'm doing a monologue right now on YouTube. This is for my YouTube channel. Thank you for liking and subscribing if you're watching this. Um, Although I admit the reality is I would love to get more likes and subscribers, but I have to just do what I do that I believe in and not do it for that reason. I've been on YouTube since 2005 and I have only about 1,200 and I'm grateful for every single subscriber that I have. Thank you so much if you subscribe. But I know that I'm not everyone's cup of tea doing my stream of consciousness monologues where I talk about art and music and my thoughts and feelings and ideas about different topics randomly. So this channel is not really a Goddess Kring brand. I'm not really, somebody said they liked that I branded myself, and it's like, did I brand myself? Because I feel like I do a lot of different things and I don't really feel like I'm a brand, but um, I'm just doing a stream of consciousness. But when I listen to Billy Bob Thornton talk about that he's dyslexic and he has a hard time reading, and yet he can write and he can act and he can do music and create characters, and then it makes me think of Temple Grandin, and then that makes me think of um, there's somebody that has, I think it's called Tourette's syndrome, where you have weird like twitches and your mind, your brain gets you have sort of a not relaxed way of behaving. Your body chemistry is, have like a twitch, twitch, twitch kind of thing. And then they play the drums. There's some people that are musical and they play the drums and then their Tourette's syndrome sort of goes away. So like their brain, something about playing the drums or doing music calms the mind down. So I'm thinking if you're in your flow and you're doing what you love, maybe it calms the brain down. So I was going to say Pete Droge reminds me of Roger McGrin from the Birds and reminds me of Tom Petty. There's something about the sensitive, melodic, lyric, and strong emotion. That's what it is. It's one thing I love about the vocals of Tom Petty from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is so much emotion comes through his voice like an actor. And not all musicians are like that. I guess all of the most interesting ones probably are. The ones that I love, the vocalists that I love, like Edie Brickell and Mick Jagger and David Bowie and Tom Petty and Tori Amos and Patti Smith and Jesse Sykes and I guess I love Billie Holiday and Frank Sinatra and people like that and Jim Morrison, Beck, some of the younger people, Beck and oh, I like Lana Del Rey. Is that how you say her name? And Billie Eilish, people that are really emotional and put a lot of emotion into their lyrics. Well, Pete Droge does that, and there's just something very transparent or authentic. It's an authentic transparency. It's something that comes through the voice that I really, really love, and I'm just noticing that. And Pete was happy that I was noticing that. And he says, thank you for appreciating because we really worked on that vocal. There was a one certain song, now I forgot which song it was, but I heard the vocal and I really loved it. I think it was Song for Barbara Ann is one of his songs. And I actually burst into tears last night though, after I talked with Pete Droge. I enjoyed the Nudestock gathering and then I enjoyed the Pete Droge concert. And then I just kind of cried after that. I felt sad that one of my friends was busy and couldn't come to those two events with me. And then the other friend was just tired. He was at one of the events but didn't have the energy to come to the second event. So I was there by myself, which is no big deal because I'm an only child. I'm used to doing things by myself. But I felt like I wanted to share at the end of that event. I wanted to share with somebody my thoughts or feelings and listen to their thoughts and feelings. And I didn't have anybody to share with. And then for some reason, I just burst into tears and I cried when I was walking down the street. It wasn't bothering anybody, hopefully, but because I don't want to cry in public and embarrass myself. But I cried. I sat in my car and cried. I walked to my car and cried, and then I actually called a friend who did talk to me and listened to me, and that was really nice. I'm really grateful for my friend that listened to me as I was crying, but I was just feeling really moved. I was feeling a little overwhelmed. I cried because I kind of overdid it yesterday, and I was feeling moved and overwhelmed, and I was feeling kind of like envious. I have this thing, and maybe it's because I'm a Scorpio. I sometimes feel jealous or competitive or envious of other people, and then I think, ugh, I don't want to feel It's more envy than jealousy because jealousy is pretty nasty. That's almost like you want to take something away from another person, whereas envy is more like you wish that you could do what you want to do your own version. So when I listen to Pete Droge sing, I think, God, I just wish that I could be a musician like that, but I'm just not. Like I'm musical, but I'm not like brilliantly musical. I'm very poetic. I write poetry. I think I've written some really great poems. But then my job as an artist is to get out of my own way and do the best I can do. That's one thing that Tom Petty said that inspired me. He said that he felt like when people like gushed about how great he was, he said it didn't occur to him, he'd say, well, thank you. But he said that he said something like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were too insecure to worry about how good they were. They were always trying to do their best. Like every song, they were and every album, they were trying to always, what's the next best thing we can do? Okay, now let's do another song. Let's do our best. Every time he wanted to try his best. And if he wasted time worrying about how good it was or what kind of score it was going to get, then it would get in the way of his creativity. So it's kind of like he had a balance of doing his best, but at the same time, like imagine if Tom Petty had been self-conscious when somebody said, "Hey, you sound like Bob Dylan." He might have been like, "Oh, ooh, am I copying Bob Dylan?" Oh, he might have been embarrassed by that. Instead, he took it as a compliment. He's like, "Wow, I didn't even know I could sound like Bob Dylan," because he loves Bob Dylan and the Byrds and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and all the great bands. But a lot of blues. He's influenced by a lot of blues people and some country, Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and Lucinda Williams and all kinds of cool, like Emmylou Harris, all these country people, Patsy Cline and, Lizzie, oh wait, Lefty Frizzell. I love the song by Lefty. I don't know if he wrote it. Lefty Frizzell, there's a song called Long Black Veil. We're working on a song that's inspired by country, Cutworms, the Song of the Highest Tower, and Lefty, sorry, I want to say Lizzie, Lefty Frizzell, Long Black Veil is a great song. And Deep Dark Woods, Drifting on a Summer's Night. Those three songs are inspiring the new cowboy country Kring sounding song that's a bit twangy and melancholy. We're just starting to work on that. So I'm excited about that. But something about Billy Bob Thornton and Temple Grandin and how if you tap into what you're good at, if you do, like if you're a kid and you don't get exposed to music and art and theater and reading and writing and auditory, I learn best. I don't read well because I'm dyslexic. I like things are out of order and I don't remember. I read something and I don't remember what I read. I don't know if that's dyslexia or ADHD, but I just do not remember what I just read unless I'm really into it. And then I need to underline things. But if I listen to an audio book and take notes, so I can listen and take notes and then I integrate it into so that's how I learn. It's kinesthetic and it's auditory and I love to write. So some people say you can't be a good writer unless you're a good reader. Well, I'm living proof that that's not true because I am not a good reader, but I am a good writer. So I feel like, but I listen. That's what it is. I think that I listen. I listen. So I listen to music or podcasts or audiobooks and I absorb. I really do listen. So I think that that's what it is. If you're good at reading, you're basically listening. You're reading, but you're listening to what the person wrote in your own head when you read it to yourself. So it's the same thing. If you're dyslexic like me and you don't read well, you're listening by literally listening with your ear. So I listen well to other writers. I listen to music and audiobooks and podcasts and other people talking, giving interesting lectures and talks. So I guess it's true. I learned to write by listening to other people who share well-written communication, I guess you could say. So I'm inspired by music and movies and audiobooks and lectures, and my favorite memories of childhood were watching movies and writing papers on movies in my class called Film is Art. I got an A on every paper, I think. I was really good at watching movies and writing down psychological metaphors and themes, motifs and themes, and uh, appreciating what the actors were doing and how they were sharing. And so I burst into tears and I cried because I was thinking about how I wish that I could be, an amazing musician. And right now I feel like I'm in music school. I'm sort of learning how to take my poems and turn them into songs. And I can improvise a little bit on the piano, but mostly with the songs I'm doing with Dave Flowers from Interactive Jack Records. He's doing the mixing and the arranging, and he's making the rhythms and the melodies, and then we're using my voice and my words to animate these songs and mix these songs. And I would like to have more musical input. And when I listen to Pete Droge and I sing along with his music, I feel like I'm teaching myself how to sing by singing along with vocalists that I appreciate the sounds of and that have a similar range to my range. And I feel like Pete Droge's voice is similar to my range. Um, maybe. I was in choir in high school and I could match other people's voices in choir and hit the right notes. But when I sing a cappella, it's hard for me to, or if I just sing with a piano or an instrument, I guess I can just practice and build my vocal skills. I'm just so much in love with music and really listening carefully to music. So I think I just have to take it slow and just go at my own pace. But Dave and I have done like 24 songs, and it's really because of Dave helping teach me how to do music that I can do this music with him. When I've done my own musical spoken word recordings by myself, they're way more avant-garde and way more, if you go to my shannonkringen.com website, you could see, Kring Music, I think is the name of the web page. And there's lots of experimental audio that I've recorded by myself. And then I worked with Claxton Kent in Portland, Oregon, and we did an album called Synchronicity, and there's like 5 tracks, I think, 5 or 6, that's my voice and Claxton Kent's music backing me up. That was really fun to experiment with, but that's more avant-garde as well. But I was trying to really sing and get into the like making melodies, and it seems like melodies don't pop into my head. When I play the keyboard, I can make up a melody, but I do it based on I hear, like I play and I don't know what it's going to sound like. That's not like I hear it in my head and then I play it. It's that I just instinctively follow what my fingers want to do, and then I respond to the sound I hear, and then I just keep hitting other notes and I just make it up as I go and I respond the same way that I do my visual art. But poetry is the only thing where, like when I draw a picture, I have no idea what I'm going to draw. Like when I drew this, I I call it Windsong Spiral Drive. I have no idea what it was going to look like, and I would just pick a color and draw a shape and just make it up as I go and respond to whatever I thought looked good. And when I take photos, I respond in the direct present moment. But poetry is one of the few things where phrases will pop into my head like magically, a phrase like catch the windsong spiral drive, crack the code left and right. No, that just popped. Whoa, that just popped into my head. I don't remember thinking, oh, I'm going to write a rhyme about winds, use the word wind and song and drive. It's like, nope, I just catch the wind song spiral drive, an ocean beam, come clean, manifesting dreams, inner energy, life force, come forth. That just popped into my head. I don't know where that came from. So that just popped into my head, but I don't have melodies so far popping into my head. I don't go la 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 and then I play it. I don't have that. I think that the amazing songwriters that I admire, they have that. They literally a melody will pop into their head. Dave Flowers, the guy I work with musically, he has that. Tom Petty, I'm sure had that. Tom Petty wrote melodies. I don't know. I've written a couple songs on the piano, but I sort of followed my fingers intuitively, and I didn't hear it in my head. I just played it and then remembered it. Whereas poetry, words will pop into my head, or when I write a story, fiction story, or when I write autobiographically, I hear my own voice in my head narrating to me what I'm going to say. So that's how I write. So I really love writing. I feel like I'm tuned into writing more than composing music. But the people I admire the most are the actors and musicians more than the visual art. I love visual artists. I am a visual artist, but I I get goosebumps and cry when I listen to music. I get goosebumps and cry when I watch actors in a movie. So I'm more moved emotionally by performing arts, by acting, theater, film, music, dance, performance. I'm really affected by that emotionally. And when I look at a painting I love, I am affected emotionally. It's not quite as intense, except for when I saw Van Gogh. So I just want to share. So that's how I feel today. Okay, I think that's a long enough monologue for today. So enjoy. So I'm just going to keep creating music. We're going to play at Bumpershoot on Sunday, August 31st at 4:30 p.m. at the Art Nut Terminal Gallery. We are part of the Vanishing Seattle Visual Art Show and musical performance lineup. And I'm really proud and honored and grateful that I was invited to participate in that, curated by Cynthia Brothers from the Vanishing Seattle group. And I am going to continue learning as I go. I think I also have a musical show that I'm connected with, October 26th, 2025 at the Kenyon Hall in West Seattle. I'm pretty sure that's happening. So but I'll share more details as I know them. That's going to be a Halloween Nosferatu themed show with me and a few other musicians. And we're going to do some Goddess Kringen music, and the other musicians will do their music. And I think we're going to screen part of the Nosferatu movie as part of that show, and maybe have the Wurlitzer organ being played by people who know how to do that. So maybe I'll do that too. I can, I've heard that the Wurlitzer, is this autistic of me to do this? Because I always have the urge to do this. When I dance, I kind of go like this, and um, yeah, the Wurlitzer, if I learn how to play it, I could play it, but I've heard that's complicated to play. But I love to improvise on keyboards and create haunting melodies. I just sort of make it up as I go. Again, I don't hear it in my head. I just play it and respond. Whereas when I write, I hear words pop into my head and I write them. I can hear them and I write them down. So that's different. And when I design visual art, it's true. I don't have a picture in my head of what it's going to look like. I just start drawing, or like when I did my art car, I just had the urge to put like a swirl of green in rhinestone. And then I went, oh, a swirl of green. Oh, now I want to put pink outlining the green. Oh, now I want purple over here. And I just was like making up as I went. So that's how I catch the windsong spiral drive when I arrange my rhinestones. And when I photograph something, like I go into the forest and I just look for things. I don't think I'm going to photograph a tree. I just walk in the forest and then I go, oh, I like that tree. Oh, I like that leaf. Oh, I like that mud puddle. I like that rock. I make it up as I go. It's improvisational. So I love improv. So that there it is. So, and when I art model, I make up my poses improvisationally. I do it based on how it feels. It's kinesthetic, it's asymmetrical. But I've taken art history and I've looked at art history books. But when I pose as an art model, I don't look at art history books and copy what I see. Unless somebody actually asks me, hey, will you look at this painting? Can you do a pose like this famous Renaissance painting or whatever? Then I'll try to do it, but I can really only do my own version of that. But I don't want to copy other poses. I like to just make up my own poses for what works for me. So that's another form of improvisation when I art model. So poetry, music, painting, photography, and these monologues this is improv. So improvisational. So enjoy. Enjoy the day, everyone. And again, I'm very excited that I met Pete Droge yesterday, and I've met him a few times, and he signed this for me. And Fade Away Blue is a beautiful. If you like folk, Americana folk rock country blues, you probably like this. It's beautiful. And Kringonian Pizzazz and Kring Flower, song lyrics and dreams, and random raw essays about my life, and Art, Identity, and the Sacred, another book that I created. So enjoy, everyone. Bye for now. Do what you love, learn as you go.